This video, guys, isn't just about the art of the speedrun. It's about the top 10 speedrun mistakes to avoid and the implications they can have if you get things wrong. You don't want to make this kind of mistake? Then do keep watching. The art of the speedrun, guys, or more importantly, my top 10 speedrun mistakes to avoid. Ignore these at your peril, guys. If you are new to speedruns, be aware it is not as simple as fitting a big fast motor in your car, fitting higher gearing on there and just setting out on the street and hoping for the best, because the chances are you're going to get one of these 10 things wrong and that's going to end in disaster. Anyway, guys, before I get on to the tips, I would just say this is like a two-way street kind of thing, so your input on all of these is much appreciated. If there's any glaring ones that I've forgotten, please do chip in, because they could save somebody else from having a horrific accident, cost themselves a lot of money, etc. Anyway, guys, if you like this stuff, by all means share with friends. All shares are very much appreciated, and if you love it, by all means subscribe. Anyway, let's get on with those tips to avoid. The first is always have a spotter. Now, there are exceptions to this rule. The awesome Mr. Phil Jolly out there does some amazing, like 150, 160 mile an hour runs out there, but Phil does it on a huge empty stretch of road, guys. You can probably see the best part of 3/4 of a mile to a mile in either direction, guys. If you're doing it on your own, in any kind of built up area or close to built up area, get a spotter and have it so that spotter is looking up the road as to where the traffic is going to be coming from first of all. There is no point if both of you are looking that way when the car is coming from that way. So one of you is focusing on actually driving the car from that side, the other guy is looking that way and shouting out car or lorry if anything's come. Anyway, let me show you a real life example of that. Now, the spotter, guys, needs to be looking down the road behind him and shouting car very loudly and clearly so the driver can hear. That car looks a distance away, doesn't it? That car's miles away, Richie. It's like 300 feet away. Guys, 100 miles an hour is about 146 feet per second. So in 2 seconds, that 300 feet is taking your RC car smack into the front of that car coming down the street. That's why you need a spotter, guys. The faster you go, the faster that closing distance is going to be. Anyway, let's get straight on to point number 2, which is always do a test run, a shakedown run. I put up some videos for this Traxxas Fortec 2.0 VXL, and I've said like 60 mile an hour, 70 mile an hour shakedown run. That is all it is, guys. It's not me going for the top speed on this car. It is checking that it goes in a straight line, that it brakes, that it accelerates without squirreling wildly all the way up the road. Basically, just checking everything is working on the car and building that speed up, guys. So whatever you do not make the mistake of not doing a shakedown run and doing a 90 mile an hour run straight away, getting to the end and find you've got no brakes or no steering, because the thing is just going to end in boom, disaster. Well, number 3 in speedrun mistakes to avoid is choosing the wrong tyres, guys. You've got your nice new motor, your nice new ESC in your car, your great big battery on there. The tyre choice should come before any of that, guys. The tyres are the most vital thing to the car. If they blow up, you're going to lose control or not be able to brake, or a combination of the two. I see people talking about getting these Armour Granite 3S's and pushing them like up to stupid speeds with the stock tyres on. That is a recipe for disaster, because these things are going to balloon like crazy. Anyway, bearing that in mind, let me talk you through what you should be looking for a speedrun tyre. So whilst these tyres will balloon hugely at high speed, on my Armour Granite Typhon speedrun car, these GRP S3 compound tyres will barely balloon at all. They're also nice and sticky, as you can see from all the rubbish from the road that's got stuck to them. As soon as they warm up, they get extra sticky, giving you even more grip, meaning the car is less likely to wiggle round as you accelerate up to speed on there, and you're going to be able to brake far better because they're getting their traction with biting into the road. Or you could opt for some foam tyres, which, whilst these may balloon a little bit at speed, but nowhere near as much as these foam tyres will barely balloon at all. Anyway, I'm going to quickly power this car up so you can see the ballooning, and this car up so you can see the ballooning. And then we're going to do a little fun demonstration. This tyre, you might think, oh, quite low profile there, Richie. 70mm hex. So yours truly is going to fit one of these onto the car. We're going to put it on the stand there, hold it and give it full throttle. and pray. Okay guys, 3S back on board purely for demonstration purposes. Going to quickly grip the throttle on this and you will see the foams hopefully shouldn't balloon at all. See, no ballooning at all with the foams. Okay now guys, on the Typhon, they may be ballooning a little bit, but they're not going to balloon anything like say the Armour Granite ones would do. Just going to very carefully hold this car down though. I would point out there guys, this car is running on 8S on there, so you're getting a little bit of ballooning, but not a great deal. So whilst they're ballooning a little bit, you're still going to retain a lot of control with these tyres fitted. They're not the same with this one fitted. Now guys, I will point out with this tyre, I'm actually wearing eye protection on here at the minute, because this is probably not going to end well for the tyre. If that had happened on the road guys, your like $1,000 investment has just gone slamming hard into the curb at 100 miles an hour faster than you can blink, and your night and your game are over. So guys, when testing RC car tyres in a garage, always wear safety glasses. So number 3 there in my top 10 speedrun mistakes to avoid is choosing the wrong tyres for your car. Choosing the wrong tyres or skimping on tyres can be absolutely fatal. If that tyre had gone bang at like 50 miles an hour, damage to your car quite substantial. 100 miles an hour, you're probably going to have written off most of the front end of the car. Okay, and number 4 of my top 10 speedrun mistakes to avoid is overgearing. When it comes to making a mistake of overgearing for your car on speedruns, very easy to do. Yours truly has been guilty of that. I've upped the gearing on this car on 6S and it actually ran slower than the stock out the box gearing did with the thing, because there is only so much the stock motor is going to be able to push, and this is a bit where it's a lot of trial and error guys. You'll see me doing speed run and I'll say Traxxas Vortex speed run 60 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour might be the next one, 80 miles an hour. I'm doing it in baby steps. It's not that I don't want to go fast, don't want to reach over 100 miles an hour, etc. Not that at all. It's that I'm playing with that balance of top speed versus acceleration versus heat on the motor and heat on the ESC, which are my next 2 topics that I'm going to come onto, because the gearing is all related to those. Too high a gear, yeah sure, it might eventually reach 100 miles an hour, but you might need like a mile long straight to do it. So if you've only got a 400 foot long area near you, you need to think about the gearing in particular. Also, if the gear's too much for the car, not only is it going to take forever to get up to speed, also that motor is going to be put under a lot more strain, it's going to get a lot warmer. That in turn is going to be drawing more current through your ESC, which is also going to be getting a lot warmer, which is in turn going to be draining your battery a lot faster, and if you've not got a high enough C rating on your battery, then that battery is going to be starting to puff up. Overgearing is a key thing to avoid there guys. It is the key to going fast, the right gearing, but do not overgear. Just move up like 2-3 teeth at a time, changing up and down on the pinion until you get that ideal combination on there. Okay, I mentioned motors there guys, and number 5 in the top 10 speedrun mistakes to avoid is fitting the wrong motor to your car. There can be a tendency to think like I did early on, simply fit a higher kV motor to your car and it's going to go like a rocket. Case in question, on this Traxxas Vortex 2.0 VXL, you could go and fit like a Castle 7700 kV motor in there, but while it might push the thing to 120, it will be eventually, because those high kV motors, the power is right up here guys, and it can take you so long to reach that peak power period in there that you've simply run out of room for doing your speed run. The car will be accelerating much slower until it gets into that high rev range, and then it will go like a rocket. But if the car is too heavy, those high kV motors won't work, because they will simply never reach the revs required to get to their peak power on there, just because they're just trying to push too much weight. All that will happen is the motor will get very warm and burn out. Likewise, those high kV motors, geared them wrong, comes back to my point on overgearing, they will not push huge like 1-to-1 ratios where like a 7700 kV motor will last seconds before the thing just overheats on there. So motor choice is pretty much essential. A little bit of experimentation on there gained on there guys. I tried a Castle 5700 kV motor on this, absolutely flies along, but it wasn't kind of quite getting to the peak performance I thought it was. Fit a 4600 kV motor, actually went faster than it did with the bigger kV motor on there. Also guys, don't worry necessarily about going for low kVs on your motor. Let me show you what I mean. That's because on a Losi XLE here, we've got an 800 kV motor. Yet this motor will push this thing to around about 50-55 miles an hour. Now with an uprated ESC, this 400 amp one on here, that will push that closer to 70 miles an hour. So that also brings me along nicely to my next point, which is choosing the wrong ESC. An RC speedrun mistake number 6, guys, is using the wrong battery. There are 50C batteries, guys, and there are 50C batteries. Better still, in a high current application like this, where you're pulling a large number of amps from the motor through the ESC, you want something like this 100C pack. So in general, the bigger the battery, the higher the C rating, the better. So what's the best battery for the job, guys? Well, you've got your Ferrari engine, you've got your Ferrari fuel pump in there, so give it some high octane fuel by all means. Think high milliamps, high C rating when it comes to speedrun batteries, guys. Ones like this might be adequate for your basher, but they ain't going to cut it. Something like this is going to be necessary for your speedruns. And point number 7 on my speedrun mistakes to avoid is choosing the wrong ESC. I'll put it this way. If you've got a Ferrari engine in your race car and you've got high octane race fuel in your fuel tank, why on earth would you put a fuel pump from a Mini to get that high octane fuel into the engine? Because that's what you're doing if you're choosing the wrong ESC. If you choose the wrong ESC, that engine is going to try and draw that fuel through, like drawing the current through from the battery on there. The thing sitting in between there, the ESC, isn't going to be able to handle it, and it's going to fry itself as it tries to get, as too much current tries to get drawn through it. Or that engine's going to run slow because the ESC simply can't give the juice to the engine it needs in order for you to go fast. Case in question being the outgoing ESC in my Losi DB XLE handled around about 200 amps. This one handles around about 400, so it's basically able to pump the fuel, if you like, at about twice as fast as the outgoing one did. Also, guys, the one mistake I would say to avoid making is choosing an ESC that's rated at 6S and trying to run 8S through it, because that will end in tears. You will fry the ESC if you do that. A lot of the motors say a motor might be rated for 6S, but you might be able to run 8S through it for a short period of time before it gets too warm. As long as you pay attention to the temperatures, put a fan on it, you might be alright. The ESC though will be greatly affected. If you've got like a 3S ESC, you try and put 6S through it, it's going to fry the circuitry on there. Less of a danger of doing that with a motor, big danger of doing that with the ESC, so do bear that in mind. And the one thing I would say is go for the biggest, baddest ESC you can get. Because the bigger and badder your ESC is, the greater, the bigger that fuel pump I was describing earlier, the more fuel it can flow through it. So the more chance, if you've got good battery packs, the more chance you have of being able to maximise that power right the way through to the motor. You can have the best battery pack in the world, but if you ain't got an ESC that's big enough to handle the current draw from the motor, the car will never fulfil its speedrun potential. Okay, number 8 in my top 10 of speedrun mistakes to avoid: too much steering. Now I'll have to give you a practical demonstration on this one, guys. Okay guys, when I say too much steering, this is too much steering, okay? That might be good for normal road usage, but you will see in my speedrun videos that I take forever, a huge turning circle at the end of the road. That is because on my Traxxas app here, or on any of the dual rate cars, I turn the steering right down. So the steering is more like this. That is because if anything goes wrong at high speed, it starts veering towards the curb, what do? You snatch the steering. You do not want that full 45 degrees of steering angle coming in there. You want like a minimal amount coming. You want to do a nice gradual correction to the steering. You do not want those big steering amounts when doing high speed runs with your car, guys. The faster you're going, the less steering you want in there, because at speed, any steering effect is greatly amplified on there. So what might seem a tiny amount of steering on the car now, when that thing's doing close to 100 miles an hour, that's still got plenty of movement on the road. What you do not want as the speed builds up to high speed is to snatch at the car and go like that, because bang, you're in the curb, guys, game over. So okay guys, so on that speedrun mistake of having too much steering on something like the Traxxas Link app, you can dial that to the amount of steering percentage you've got up and down there. But on most other controllers, you will want something that has got a steering dual rate on there, so you can turn down the amount of steering effect that you're putting into the car. Hope that one makes sense, guys. As I say, any questions, please do ask away. Okay guys, point number 9 in my top 10 speedrun mistakes to avoid: too little braking, or in some cases too much braking, depending on the car. I'll talk about that in just a second. The initial ESC that the Armour had in here was fine when I was bashing it around as a buggy, etc. on there, but even under 50% braking, I was finding as I was building up to that sort of 90-mile-an-hour mark, this was a real handful to slow down. Car came around the corner down at JG Customs. I was really struggling to pull the car up. The thing was just got so much speed. It was just going straight on. The brakes were not having a great deal of impact on there. There are some people out there that do say though not to have too much braking on there, because if you had 100% braking on the car, there could be the tendency that if your front wheels bite in, you get that much grip that the car simply flips over that way, end over end, with the front wheels locking up, digging in and throwing the car on down the street, in which case it is completely out of control. So I can see that line of thought, but I am quite a big fan of very strong braking. Both of these cars have now got very strong braking. You do have to be a little bit careful on this one. I've had to dial the braking back on this because on the foam tyres with 100% braking, you get the problem, the car can lock them up and then flat spot the foam tyres right off the tyres. So there's kind of like a fine line you need to get balanced on there, guys. But it comes back to point number 2. Do that shakedown run. Find out if the brakes are good enough for the car before you start out on a real high speed stuff. Okay, mistake number 10 in RC speedrun mistakes to avoid, guys, is not knowing when to quit. We've all been guilty of it. You reach like 97 miles an hour and you think, I'll just have one more go, I'll break that magic turn, Richie, and then something fails on the car and things go horribly wrong. Or you get to the speed run spot and it's a little bit wetter than you'd like, or maybe it's a bit windier than you'd like. Walk away from it, guys. Know when to quit. It will be sunny the next day, the day after that. There will be less wind, it will be drier. There is no point in risking all your hard work you've put and all your money in there just for the sake of making that one last run. Trust me, guys, it's not worth it. Here's a clear example of when yours truly pushed it a little bit too hard. End of the day, I really should have called it quits. And I escaped with the car in one piece, but was very lucky indeed. Watch this clip, see what I mean.
Shit. My bad.
No more.
Now in the blink of an eye, guys, it's not only hit the curb, but it's also hit that concrete block. Now luckily the car was in one piece and remarkably nothing has got damaged. So there we are, guys. Only probably because this car is armour tough did that thing not end up like in like about 50 different pieces on their head-on impact into the curb. Not going too fast, but a lot of cars would still have just been smashed to pieces doing that kind of thing. My fault for doing that, and that was literally the last. I said to myself, Rich, so it's the last run you're going to do today. I should have called it quits earlier. A little alarm bell ringing in my head, should have listened to that. Anyway, boys and girls, that concludes my top 10 speedrun mistakes to avoid. I'll now throw that one open to the floor. Any comments or questions you might have, do have your say in the comment section below the video. And if you like this stuff, by all means share with friends. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Well, thumbs up if you like this video, guys. Post any comments you might have in the comment section below the video and hit the circle below to subscribe. And if you do hit the circle, don't forget to hit the bell.